Janet and Michael loved having children. After their marriage, the nursery was one of the first rooms they designed and prepared, but due to Janet's infertility, it had remained empty for 4 years. After years of unsuccessful attempts, they decided to adopt a baby boy named Aaron, who was only 2 or 3 months old. The arrival of a child breathed new life into Janet and Michael's world, filling it with love and hope. But this feeling only lasted a few days, as Janet soon realized something else had entered their home along with Aaron. In the first few days, Janet and Michael were so excited that they didn't pay much attention to Aaron's strange behaviors. Janet often saw Aaron staring at a specific point in the room, or smiling at someone as if they were present in the room, someone other than Janet or her husband. This didn't seem odd to Janet and Michael, as they had observed similar behaviors in other children. However, everything changed on the 6th night. That night, Janet woke up to the sound of Aaron crying through the baby monitor. Although the crying stopped quickly, what kept Janet awake was something else, a soft, indistinct humming, resembling a lullaby that could be heard through the baby monitor. Janet turned on the monitor's camera and was shocked by what she saw. Aaron was asleep, and everything seemed normal except for one thing. Aaron's crib was gently rocking, as if someone was moving it. Assuming Michael had reached Aaron's room first, Janet looked to her side and saw Michael sleeping beside her. Fear gripped her as she continued to hear the indistinct lullaby. She adjusted the camera angle several times until her gaze fixed on a particular spot. Through the wooden slats of Aaron's crib, she could see something peeking out that wasn't clear. Zooming in, Janet's body froze with fear. Staring back at her through the camera were the eyes of a person. She quickly woke Michael, and they both rushed to Aaron's room. Upon entering, everything appeared normal. There was no strange noise or any sign of another person. Janet pointed to the crib, which was still moving. Michael assured her that Aaron's movements were causing the crib to rock, but as time passed, Janet increasingly felt the presence of something mysterious that always seemed to be with Aaron. This feeling intensified during the days Michael had to go to another city for work, leaving Janet and Aaron alone at home. The first incident happened in broad daylight. Around 11 in the morning, Janet was in the kitchen preparing milk for Aaron, who was crying in his room. Despite her attempts to soothe him with singing and talking, Aaron's cries only stopped when the mobile with dolls above his crib began to move, playing a gentle melody. Janet was astonished since it was impossible for Aaron to reach the mobile, which was about 40 centimeters above the crib. Who or what had moved it? When Janet entered the room, the mobile was still moving. The windows were closed, and there was no airflow to explain its movement. Stranger still was Aaron's reaction. He was staring up and reaching out his hands as if wanting to be picked up, ignoring Janet standing at the door. What was Aaron seeing, or who was he seeing? This question haunted Janet until the night before Michael's return, when she witnessed what she had been searching for with her own eyes. That night, Janet had darkened the room and sat with Aaron in his play tent, hoping to lull him to sleep through play. The only light came from Aaron's toy ball, which lit up whenever pressed. When the house phone rang, Janet had to leave Aaron alone. The colorful lights from the toy ball illuminated the tent, allowing Janet to keep an eye on Aaron from the hallway while talking on the phone. But when the ball lit up for the third time, Janet's gaze froze on the tent. Aaron wasn't alone, and the shadow of another person, a woman, was visible in the tent. Shocked, Janet ended her call and hurried toward Aaron's room, never taking her eyes off the tent, which had again fallen into darkness. Maybe it was a trick of the light or the shadow of one of the dolls in the room. Janet wanted to rationalize what she had seen, but when Aaron's toy lit up again, she was paralyzed with fear. Clearly visible inside the tent was the figure of a woman. She suddenly remembered the image she had seen on the monitor camera a few nights before. She recalled hearing the tragic story of Aaron's birth mother from the orphanage manager. Aaron's mother was from a poor family that had rented her womb for money to another couple. But after giving birth, her maternal instinct prevented her from giving up her child. She was killed in an accident while trying to escape the town with Aaron. When they found her body, Aaron was still in her arms. Although Aaron was returned to his legal parents, they had given him back to the orphanage within weeks, which was why Janet had chosen Aaron, believing he was a victim of his wealthy parents' fleeting whims. Now she understood why they hadn't kept him. Aaron's mother had never left him and was now in Janet's home. Though Janet couldn't see her anymore, Aaron was alone in the tent. She had to leave the house. It was the only solution she could think of. Packing essential items for Aaron, she talked to Michael, asking him to return home as soon as possible. Before she could explain the situation, something stopped her. Entering the tent to get Aaron, Janet noticed Aaron's strange look and smile, directed not at her, but at someone behind her. Janet's piercing scream was the last sound that Michael heard coming from the phone. It took Michael only a few hours to reach home. During that time, Janet didn't answer any of his calls. When Michael arrived, the house was dark, and Janet didn't respond to him calling her name. Eventually, he heard a soft, indistinct lullaby coming from Aaron's room. Michael entered and turned on the light. The room was completely calm. Janet was sitting on a rocking chair with her back to Michael, softly humming a lullaby that didn't sound like her voice. Michael doubted whether the woman he saw was Janet. He slowly approached, talking to her, but Janet didn't react until Michael placed his hand on her shoulder. The chair stopped moving, and the lullaby ceased. Michael couldn't believe what he saw. Janet was holding Aaron, breastfeeding him. Michael had read about women who could produce milk without being pregnant, but what he saw felt like a beautiful miracle. Maybe that's why he didn't realize the woman sitting in the chair, staring at him with lifeless gray eyes and a dead smile, wasn't Janet.